our way. Okay. So hello and welcome everyone for joining us for tonight's open book program. Tonight we're doing a virtual visit at the Free Library of Philadelphia's Art Department Vault with Alina, Josan. And I'm Kara Petralia, the current board president of the Philadelphia Center for the Book, and Alina is one of our board members as well as our library liaison. As you all may know, the Philadelphia Center for the Book's mission is to advance the book as a vital contemporary art form, connecting the diverse community of institutions and individuals whose passion is books. We do this through a variety of programs from our Artists Working Group, Book Paper Scissors Artist Book Fair, our annual members exhibition, the Edible Book Festival, and open book events like this one. Membership with PCB entitles you to access to these programs and provides support for us to continue offering these events and connecting the book arts community of Greater Philadelphia. And then a quick note about the Zoom. You have two options for viewing settings, and you can change that at the top right of your screen. The speaker view will show the current person speaking in a large screen mode, and the gallery view will allow you to see all participants at the same time. I'm also going to try to do a setting that Alina's screen will hopefully show up large for everyone, but hopefully if that doesn't work, we can juggle some settings and so everybody can see the books very well tonight. During the program, we ask that you keep yourself muted unless you're actively speaking to the group to help limit interruptions and background noise. And as I mentioned before, we'll be recording this and sharing it publicly. So if for some reason anyone you know missed it and you want to share it, you'll definitely be able to do that. And we'll post it on social media and in our newsletter. So now I'm going to pass the screen to Alina so she can begin her tour.
Thanks, Kara. I'm going to share my screen and jump right into a quick PowerPoint introduction. So welcome to the Art Department of the Free Library of Philadelphia. We are the largest collection of art books in the Free Library of Philadelphia system. So this is the public library system for the city of Philadelphia. It's a municipal system. We have 54 locations throughout the city. The Parkway Central Library is the research branch. So we have a comprehensive reference collection here. So we have a whole department devoted to books on art subjects. So that's what the art department is. But because this is such an incredible library and we've been around for so long, we have some pretty stellar collections here. We have rare books on the third floor. The entire third floor of the building is taken up by the rare books department, but we also have rare books in other non-rare books or special collections departments as well. So you'll see some in the art department. So and we keep a lot of them in a room that we call the vault, and it's actually a fairly sizable collection. So that's what we're here to look at. But first, I want to give you a quick introduction to the art department. Visually, if we were walking through, we would be coming up to the room on the second floor. Here's the art department in the distance, and we have a small gallery display case there. And as you're walking in, you would be just free to browse these shelves. We're normally open 7 days a week. On most weekdays, we're actually open 12 hours a day. So we have really accessible hours. Anybody is welcome to come in and browse. So we have huge browsing collections. We subscribe to more than 75 art magazines and journals. Because we're a reference collection, we actually keep all back issues. So you would be able to read something like Art Forum going back to the 1960s, every single issue, or an architectural magazine going back to 19th century, and so on. So but we have current issues on display, more shelves, some art. This is a sculpture that's always on display here, made by a local Philadelphia artist, Gail Gaines. It's actually a collaboration with another artist, Darla Jackson, but Gail encased it in this story quilt. Really quick, before we go into the vault virtually, I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the library. And I just wanted to explain a few things about which books people are normally able to access, because we're a public library. Most people think of the public library as a place that you can just freely browse, but we have reference collections that are a enclosed area, so they have to be requested by visitors. So this whole balcony here is our closed reference collections. So why is that? Why do we have books that can be browsed and books that you have to ask for? So I'm gonna just do a quick galloping history of the library. Here is the very beginning of the free library. We were only open to the public for 1 year in our first location in City Hall at Philadelphia between 1894 and 1895. And then moved for 17 years to a building at 12th and Chestnut. And there was already an art department in this building. So by 1895, the third floor of this building here was devoted to an art book collection. In 1910, we moved to this, or thereabouts, we moved it to this building at 13th and Locust, which is also not there anymore. And there was an art department in this space as well. All of these photos came from the Free Library's digital collection. So you can actually see these and many more historic library photos at freelibrary.org/digital. And I can share that link later. But here's the art collection in that building around 1910. So some of these books are still here. That's what I'm slowly getting at. So if we could zoom in enough to read the spines on these books, we might see some of them in the art department vault today. Our current building was completed in 1927. So here's where we are now on Logan Circle, just down the parkway from the art museum, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. You can see the Franklin Institute, Family Court. They have not been completed yet, but here's the Academy of Natural Sciences across the street, across the circle. And here is the room that we're in today. I guess you can see behind me that I'm in the art department on the second floor. So here's the room in 1927 when the skylights were still open. And take a look at this. This was a room called Pepper Hall. After an early founder, and there are barely any books in the room. So you can see there's just a few shelves here and there. This entire room was a closed reference section. So none of these books could be borrowed. There was only one room in this whole building where circulating books were held. So we've really changed a lot since by adding a lot more shelves and a lot more books were growing. Here's a quick map of the library. Here we are in Pepper Hall today on the second floor. And the vast majority of books at the time when the building was designed were held in the stacks. So this was a library that was designed to be a closed stack library. So the stacks were directly below us, and it was 6 levels of books taking up 2 floors of the library. So really huge collection. And this was the norm for up until the 1970s. Most libraries with large collections would have their books away from the public. University libraries started opening their stacks in the 1970s. And actually, there are many instances of students protesting in order to request access to stacks. You know, we're used to university libraries today as having rows and rows of shelves that we can wander. So that wasn't really the case at the time. So a lot of libraries were designed to be closed stack libraries, as was this one. So this one in 1927, as today, holds more reference books than any of the branches in the free library system, more academic, advanced titles. This is the Library of the People, where the University of the People, you know, where anybody can access books easily here without being affiliated with an institution. So these stacks were actually 6 levels of metal shelves, and they were built by the Art Metal Company. And as you can see, our building boasted the largest metal library equipment job in the world at the time in 1927. this 6-story stack structure designed to hold the bulk of our collection was an integral part of the building. So I'm just gonna walk you through that that process. Again, all these images are from our historic collection that you can find in our digital library. Here's somebody retrieving a book that has been requested. You can see the ceiling is low. There's 6 floors here. There's a sorting equipment. The books are placed in bins, taken into a conveyor belt system, and then brought up to the rooms through this dumbwaiter, which we still have in the room today. This is a photo taken a little bit later. And here's where the stacks elevator of books would have ended up. So that's still there today, but it doesn't function anymore because in 2013, we removed the books to an offsite storage location from the stacks. So here's a photo of the stacks from 2007, taken from the HAB's historic report. You can find this in the Library of Congress digital library if you want to read the whole report. And this is the space that we've opened just recently, the other year, in that former stack space. So this is the Heim Center for Community Engagement, and it's a it's a 2-level place. There's not a space underneath where the books used to be held, and the collection that was in those stacks inside the building is now offsite in Philadelphia in our regional operations center. So the art department's collection of books that used to be in our on-site stacks is now safely stored in this great environmentally protected space. The staff there is amazing. We love working with them. They retrieve books for us daily. So normally not at this time because of COVID restrictions, but people can request books from these offsite stacks themselves really quite easily using the online catalog. So now back to the art department, the room that we're in now, because we're doing a vault tour. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our collections as a whole, because I like to tell people to imagine an iceberg. So the books, when you first walk into the room and you're just browsing on your own, you just see the very tip of the iceberg above the water surface. And you might see these books on the balcony and think, you know, how can I access those? And you might ask a librarian. But I also wanted to make sure people knew that there are many more books in our offsite stacks, our regional operations center, and the vault. So that's what we're here for. And also, if you remember that photo from 1927 had a lot less books in the room. So just we've doubled the shelving space on the balcony, and there are so many more freestanding shelves that can be browsed in the room. And this is great. This means that we more quickly can retrieve reference books without having to wait a day or having to process it from a different location. So now we're going up the stairs into the balcony, and I just wanted to share my favorite Art Deco shadow. Oh, one more interruption before we get into the vault itself. What do we do in the art department here, in addition to working with researchers on a direct one-on-one basis? You know, we're always happy to pull books for individual artists, groups of artists. And here's just 2 photos of these class visits. And one was arranged by Bill Brookover, and I hope he doesn't mind. I'm showing you this photograph. He's in the audience here, I can see. So here's a tour arranged by a local artist for a Fleischer Art Memorial, where the selection of materials was curated by that person. Here's a class visit with Amanda D'Amico, who's a Philadelphia Center for the Book board member as well, and an instructor who brings a lot of class visits to the art department. So here's just a quick shot of what that looks like. So I hope this is an enticement for people to visit the art department in person, whether as part of a large group visit in the future or as a one at a time prearranged research appointment, because that's what we're doing now. And we also host a lot of normally we host artist lectures. Here's Gail Gaines, the artist, worked on that boot sculpture in the room. Here's a precursor to an artist talk. Whenever we ask artists to do an artist talk, we have them select some books to from the collection to share as part of their event. And we also host a lot of Philadelphia Center for the Book events, as Kara mentioned. Here's a workshop with Candy Gonzalez from a couple years ago, another quick shot from the balcony. This is a Nag Hammadi bookbinding course. Just a quick peek at some of the exhibits that we put together, whether to highlight the collection or to local artists using the space in some way to show artwork. So now we're back in the balcony. So this time we really are going to go into the vault. This is a space we call Vault Overflow. There are more vault collection books on the balcony here. And this is a fairly large room that we'll take a peek into right now. Just a glimpse at the space, which is really quite packed with books. But instead of taking this computer inside the vault itself, where the light is a little dim, I've brought out a lot of books from the vault. So our vault tour will actually consist of looking at materials right here. So here's me preparing for this vault tour right here. I wanted to show some books printed in pochoir. So I guess we'll start with this. And let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. So I think I'm doing okay with time. I have a very ambitious stack of books to show you here, but I'm not sure if I'll get through all of them. So I'll be judicious. So I mentioned pochoir. So we have a really large collection of books printed using this colored using this method, which pochoir means stencil in French. So this is one such book, and we saw a glimpse of it in that slideshow that I was showing you just now. So prisms, I think this is 1930. E.A. Segui is the artist, and they're textile designs, or they're designs intended for textile, wallpaper patterns, or anything really. We'll see a lot of portfolios. Like this is one of the smaller ones, so I'll be able to more easily hold it up. Here's one plate. Okay, so to kind of explain what I'm talking about, these sort of resemble screen prints, but because they're each layer is hand painted using a round brush called a pom-pom. Traditionally, pochoir colorists use pom-pom brushes. You are able to do effects that you wouldn't really be able to do in screen printing. So it's a bit more versatile, more laborious and time consuming. So these are books that were printed in I guess the 20s is the heyday of pochoir books. We have a lot of them in the art department. So if you wanted to come back for a visit and request an in-person appointment to just look at pochoir, we can very easily arrange that for you. This book is available as an ebook. So if you have a free Library of Philadelphia card, you can actually borrow it through Hoopla using that card at freelibrary.org or online catalog. But you can see that experiencing this thing in person is really more rewarding. So browse through the digital version, and hopefully one day we'll see you here to visit these in person. So this is Prisms by E.A. Segui, and maybe the books that this artist is most famous for are his prints of butterflies. Let's see. Here. So you may have seen Segui's insects or butterflies before. Oh, I just dropped my computer mouse. that over there. Okay, so these large portfolios are not easy to show in this way. Even though these are meant to be designs, the artist identified the specimens scientifically. And what's really interesting is that there's also an entomologist named Segui who was active in Paris around the same time as our designer Segui. So it's a pretty easy mix-up to make. What's really neat about these patterns is we have a transition from a kind of Art Nouveau look into Art Deco from the same artist. This is the same artist, by the way, who did those prisms. So here we have some stylized, abstracted, butterfly inspired patterns. So this is a pretty well-known book by that artist. And, I hope people will chime in as I do this. So let me know if you'd like to see more of a book or less or something like it, because I have a lot of books here. We won't be able to get through them all. Here's another book of pochoir plates from Jean Burkhalter. So these are also, the book with the butterflies is actually called papillons, which means butterflies in French. So
Lena, could you go just a little slower?
Oh, okay, I will. Thank you. I was afraid I would run out of time, but I think I can just relax a little bit. So here's the title. This is the butterflies book. And I actually put together a list of books that have been colored in pochoir in our catalog, and I can share with that later. Actually, if you go to freelibrary.org/art, you'll be able to find some of what I've been talking about here. So I'll share it at the end. Here we go. Okay. I'll just drop that into the chat right now. freelibrary.org. And then once you're there, if you look on the teacher resources, you'll get to our page of lists. So some of these books that I'm holding up now that are pochoir books, you'll find in that list. And you can also, I should type my email at this point. You can email me.
Alina, I can drop your email address in the chat, no worries. So you can get back to showing books.
Thank you. Okay, so Georges Valmier, another one of these pochoir plate books, and I think I'll just because this is not bound, I'll just hold this up like this. They are really pretty stunning. And some of these you won't be able to find digitized in full as with the prisms, but you'll find selections. So very cool stuff to see in person. So maybe I'll just, yep. One more thing about pochoir and then we'll move on. This is a manual of pochoir printing by Sade, which is one of the pochoirists, the artists who were doing the actual coloring. They're as printmakers, so often they'll be credited in these books along with the artists who created the designs. So this book is in French. It's actually, it gives us instructions in creating pochoir. Here's one of those pom-pom brushes I mentioned before, and some neat step-by-step look at the creation of one of these pochoir plates. You can really vary the amount of color you use. So you can reproduce a watercolor that looks like a watercolor in the way that you wouldn't really be able to do using screen printing, which it often resembles. Here's something else done in pochoir. Anyway, you get the idea. So this is this manual has been digitized by the New York Public Library. So if you'd like access to the digital version of that, you just have to read French. It's really fun to look at in person though. And I'm going to show you things in no particular order now. So I apologize if we're jumping all over the place. But maybe this is a little bit related to pochoir. This is a collection of paper cuts, of Chinese paper cuts, and it has this really great enclosure, a book about the cuts, and a list of the provinces that they were each created in. So they're folk art, but different provinces have different styles, and so we have this red color for a certain province, and we will have like a set of them, and so forth. Here's another. And here are some printed in multiple colors. So these are also printed. Well, actually, I'm not sure if these are printed. They're hand printed, but they may be printed in stencils as well, sort of like a negative paper cut. So something neat and related. I grabbed some.
Alina,
Yeah.
really quick, we have a question from Chrissy. The pochoir book for how to, like the how-to book that you were just talking about, what was the name of it again?
So it is called, so it's French, but it is I guess an essay of illustration in pochoir. Let's see if I can, I'll just type it really quickly. I wonder if I could.
Well, do we have a list that we can share with everyone afterwards?
Yeah, let's do that. I feel like, let me just jot down the books that I can share. Actually, I'll put together a list of everything we looked at today, and then if we could email it as a follow-up, would that be useful?
We can absolutely do that.
Okay, great. So Sade manual of pochoir. And we do one-on-one appointments now. So if you go to the freelibrary.org/art department page, there's a form at the top where you can request an appointment. 12 to 4 Monday through Friday. It's just one person at a time for 1 hour, but you can request a series of appointments to see something. And or if you're not local or able to come in or comfortable coming in at this time, you can email a reference request, and if possible, I may have photographs I can share with you. So I'm always happy to work with people just interested in books for visual reasons, artists. It doesn't have to be a research question in the traditional sense. So here's a collection of woodcuts printed from the blocks of Posada. And there's this really small, delicate prints. There's a probably screen printed block of color, and then the cuts. You're probably familiar with the artwork of Jose Guadalupe Posada from his Day of the Dead calaveras that have become such a visual for that celebration. Someone interrupt me if I'm saying something stupid. There are couplets, that little poems that come with these prints and translations for them in the book that accompanies them. So this is just a very neat portfolio. It's pretty fragile, but it's nice to see things that are printed again directly from cut. Speaking of which, another book printed from wood blocks. A personal favorite from the collection here. This is Franz Mazariel's My Book of Hours. So Franz Mazariel is the father of the wordless novel. His first wordless novels, and it's a sequence of images that reads as a book. I think his first was 1919 or something like that. And here's a self-portrait of the artist. And this is a signed numbered copy, and it's the first English language edition. And of course, there's no language, there's no text in the book, but that just means the introduction and the title. Later English language editions, American editions, where removed some of the plates that were considered objectionable, that things with sexual content mostly. So this is and then this is a book that's in print a lot, and recent editions have returned them, but this was called My Book of Hours, and later editions are called My Passionate Journey. So this is, it's very open to interpretation. You can read it and make up the story as you go. It's not and there's just a lot of it here. It's just a wonderful story. This has been digitized as well. You can find it on Happy Trust.
Alina, can you page through a little slower?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you. This is very useful. Thanks for commenting. Because these are printed directly from the blocks, you can actually see a bit of an oily aura around around the ink. We actually worked with a local jazz guitarist who composed music especially for this book, and we projected sequences of pages that went with the pieces that he composed during an event. So this is just great. Okay, so there are books by Franz Mazariel that you can borrow, recent editions, but you can see the first edition English hand-printed version here. Speaking of wordless novels, Mazariel kicked up such a fashion for these things. He had a lot of imitators immediately. They were just so very popular because they're just obviously there's a great broad appeal. The fact that they're visual and they sustain multiple interpretations because there's no text, just images. So a lot of artists started doing these. Here's another artist working in wordless sequences. So, these are precursors to comics, of course. This is Otto Knuckle. This is Destiny. The book is actually printed in lead cuts rather than wood cuts. There are incisions made in lead plates, which is obviously not something that's very that has been used in a long time, the format, the medium. But yeah, Destiny, unlike a lot of the other famous wordless novels, has a woman as a protagonist, which is pretty cool. Things don't end well. It's 1930, I think. Sorry for the spoiler. I don't think this is in print right now. So I love showing this to some of our youngest visitors because they respond so well to the visual stuff. Of course.
Alina, a quick question going back to one of the books you just had.
Yeah.
How do you spell Frank's last name?
Oh yeah. So Franz Mazariel is a Flemish artist.
Okay.
So let me hold that up. So Franz Mazariel. There's an American artist who made a lot of these wordless novels, which are also wonderful, who was directly inspired by Mazariel. He saw one of Mazariel's books in his European travels, and he printed his own. So Lindward is the American French Masriel. Lindward works in wood engraving. So where Masriel's books are printed in wood cuts, wood block prints. Lindwords are use wood engravings, which are made using a cut of wood that has been prepared against the grain. So it's usually a harder wood, and you're using tools designed for steel engraving. So they're harder tools, and they have shapes that allow for these finer lines. So there's a look to wood engraving that is specific to the medium. Of course, sometimes the term woodcut is used interchangeably for wood engraving and woodcut. But just so you know, Lindward worked in wood engraving pretty much exclusively. We have a lot of Lindward first edition books here. They're really great. Here's Wild Pilgrimage. Personally, I'm more of a Masriel fan. But I need to spend more time with the Lindward. Here's a really great one that uses 2 different color blocks to tell the interior story going on through the protagonist's mind, if you will. So we have sepia or orange tones for these pages that are interspersed with the exterior events. I hope that makes sense. And actually this was also done by a different graphic novelist, if you will, a wordless novel artist named Giacomo Patri. So I think we have a list of just wordless novel books, but
so we have 2 questions for you, Alina. One, is this the same Lindward that does children's books?
Yeah, he actually did a lot of illustrations for children's books, but I don't know that he's as well known for children's books, but maybe just if you search the catalog for Lindward, the free library catalog, you will see a lot of titles in the children's book collection, but also in our historic children's literature research collection, which is a special collection with a curator. So he may know more about Lindward's activities as a children's book illustrator. Yes, thanks, Laura.
Fantastic. And then another question about Destiny. Is that available online as a digital resource?
I don't know. I haven't looked for it recently. I don't think it's available as a full text. I know that Masriel's My Book of Hours, you'll find it as My Passionate Journey in Kathy Trust, which is a full text like archive.org repository. But I don't think Destiny, and I'm not sure why that is. And I've seen, we have a book called The Wordless Novel by Walter Barona, I think. And you'll see reproductions from these books. But what's really interesting is that later editions, Lindward's most well known is God's Man. And so you'll see the original books where they all have this format, one print across a blank page, and the story unfolds. But in reprints, I've seen them clumped together in different ways, and it really tells the story differently. So it's really interesting. We have multiple editions of God's Man, for example. I didn't bring it. That's like the one that everybody is familiar with. But there's it's kind of neat to put them side by side. But I haven't looked recently, so hopefully maybe someone has reprinted it by now. I have something else that's huge because we're talking about woodcuts. This is a portfolio. Let me get this here. Orpheus. And they're woodcut. They're woodcut prints by Gerhard Marx. Gerhard, sorry, a German artist who is also a sculptor. And there's I forget the name of it, but there's a sculpture, a female figure that was exhibited at the art museum for one of their sculpture international annual things, and has been in storage for decades and only recently rediscovered. And it was just installed on the parkway just the other month. Then there's a small park being developed around it. But this is the same artist. So here are actual signed prints. This is a signed print portfolio.
Alina, could you bring that back up?
Yeah.
It was pretty quick.
I was really excited about the next one, so I just I did this too quickly. But thank you. Yeah, this is the one I was rushing to show everyone. Orpheus. I have only a brief recollection of the Orpheus myth, so I'm not sure if I can tell you off the top of my head who is depicted here. Since I'm holding up large prints, I want to just quickly show you a book of prints by Holner. So on May 19th, we're actually presenting a lecture by print and picture collection curator Laura Straffolino. And she'll be talking about this artist's work. And there's a huge collection of prints in the print and picture collection next door to us on the second floor. And I just want to give you a taste of this artist's work. And these are scenes from Fairmount Park in 19th century Philadelphia. And they're lithographs that have been pasted here and bound into this book. I'm not going to go into it too much because I want you to come to this lecture and see more examples of this work and hear Laura talk about the life of this artist and that collection. So we'll share a link to that lecture later. Yes, thanks, Laura. Okay, it's in the chat. Okay, so you know, we have class visits here a lot, and I like to bring an older book from the hand printed era so that visitors, especially younger visitors who may not have visited special collections before, can have the experience of holding a book from 1675, for example. So this is an art manual. There is an older edition of this book upstairs on the third floor in the rare books department. So we're happy that we have this edition from a couple of years later to share freely with all of our visitors when they have these big high school visits. We can just say, touch this book, it's hundreds of years old. Here's how it's printed. Look at that funny long S that looks like an F, and so forth. We have a lot of books that are historic art manuals. You can really see the impression on the type on this page over here with this light. That is not a gentle kiss. Recipes for mixing color pigments. These are the kinds of things that are really useful to paintings conservators and people who paint now, people who use oil paints. A lot of these things are still useful, and the actual language around painting instruction it's always, as somebody who studied painting, I enjoy reading older manuals of painting. So, and just also for the history of art education, these are really great books. So this is just one example of something that we have a lot of here. So these are engravings. Of course, the engravings are bound at the back of the book because they were printed in a different way. The text is printed on a letterpress, and this is something that would have gone through something like an etching press. So, artist manual. And since we're talking about printing methods, let's look at this next. How are we doing on time?
We're at 6:21, so no rush. I think we're good. Everybody's asking questions, it seems, in the chat.
Okay, oh great. Okay, so we're not trying to cut things and go to the Q&A because we're all just asking questions now. Great. Okay. So speaking of interesting, well, this for interesting printing technology. This is a, and I apologize, this book is broken, which is why it's in this enclosure. So I'm going to just remove the boards just to hold it up gently. This is a catalog of printing technologies available from the Austrian state printing house in Vienna in 1853. And the printmaker here, the author is Alois Auer. And he developed a method of nature printing that is very unique and influential. But this is a neat catalog of this is an albumen print, I think. So they have it under photography, microtyping. You know, you have engraving, lithography. I think chemotypy is something I can't remember, but it's a type of engraving. Here's more chemotypy, has to do with the process.
Could you show one of them a little bit closer?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me like find a. Oh yeah, so here's I think guilloche is what we call this, and this is the stuff that you see on currency. In German, for any German speakers, and I just really wanted to get to nature printing because this is what's really unique here. I don't know if you can see, but the ink is almost a little bit raised here. So this was, nature printing is pretty old. You know, the idea is you would ink a leaf or a plant specimen or some other flat specimen, and then you might run it through a press and get a few impressions. And people like Thomas Braintnall, Joseph Braintnall, like I'm sorry, I'm forgetting Braintnall's first name, but and then there's a lot of it in the history of Philadelphia printmaking too. But you know, you can only pull so many impressions from plant print. So this actually involved running the original specimen on top of a soft lead plate through a rolling press, like an etching press, and then you would get a negative intaglio impression, and then making a positive for that using electrotyping. And so you would have a final positive that you printed from. I guess 3D printing is maybe an analog for this. So once you have a metal plate, but it reproduces all the really fine details of a plant that you really wouldn't be able to do if you were just printing directly. Here are some algae. Well, I don't know, maybe it's moss. Sorry, printed in the same way. Lace. And they have something here called mineral printing, which I'm not sure I fully understand. I think it involves abrading a fossil or a mineral specimen that has been like a cut. They have a flat cut, and then there's some abrading, and then printing from that. So maybe something like I don't know, like an intaglio print. But the results are pretty cool. I haven't really seen too much of this elsewhere. But this nature printing, this is why I wanted to show you that, because an English printmaker, Henry Bradbury, visited the Alois Hour in Vienna, and asked to do an apprenticeship and learn the secrets of this method. And then he promptly went to England and copyrighted it. So here is the nature printed seaweeds. And again, I apologize, I'm holding this up without the front board. But as you can see, the name of Henry Bradbury proudly proclaimed there. So these are printed using that method I showed you before. So the seaweeds run through on top of a soft lead plate, and then an electrotype positive is made after. I can share some more nature printing resources after. We have a great blog post from an event that we did a while back. So you'll find links to all of these books there. I'll just quickly show the nature printed seaweed, this nature printed ferns. This is an octavo edition of something that was originally larger, and then a more affordable octavo edition was made. And each one of these, the seaweeds and the ferns, are in 4 volumes. So this is the reduced version of that original. These are actually not from the art department. The Alois Hour book, the Vienna House printing specimen book, is in the art department. And this is something that obviously is used to showcase different types of printmaking methods. And it talks about the method of making those prints. But the algae and the seaweeds are from the science department. So they're just from the regular science reference department. So you can access those books, and there's lots of really great historic nature science books in the rare books department as well. This library is just teeming with cool stuff. So okay, thanks. I'm just seeing the Destiny link now. This was a request, so we're showing off the Hokusai manga, which is one of our really popular holdings here in the art department. This is a set of books. This is just half of them. So there's 15 volumes of books that reproduce hokusai sketches in woodblock prints. So they're Japanese stamp bound volumes, and we have a complete set of all 15. This is the 1875 edition. Most of them are printed in 3 color woodblocks. So we have 2 shades of gray and a light pink, but some of them even have a 4th color. And manga in Hokusai's, for Hokusai's contemporaries at the end of the 19th century would have been understood to mean whimsical sketches. So not so much sequential art like comics or manga, even though some of these things actually have, some of these pages do show sequences of events. But these were actually just his sketches. This is just a set of sketches of sketchbooks. So I really like this page because it's kind of like his, like a sampler of different rock types. And then you'll see different kinds of wave types or trees or people exercising. Here's some, bamboo or trees. So they're really great. Let me see if I can find them. Some of them have, it's almost like a visual catalog for artists. And sometimes they depict mythological, or here's some that are a little bit more like sequential. We actually just ordered a facsimile of the manga that people can borrow. So I'm really excited about that people will be able to actually spend time with them. But it's nice to show them in the original format. So we actually have quite a sizable collection of books printed directly from woodblocks, 19th century, turn of the century Japanese books. A lot of them were donated by Lydia Morris. So now, if you have questions, I'll show you one more woodblock.
Yeah, so we're at 6:30, so maybe just show one more and then we'll wrap up. And then afterwards, Alina, you'll share the list with me and I'll email everyone so they know what we saw tonight.
Yeah, let's just do one more. Sorry, I have so many things. Of course, I got overly ambitious. Now I'm trying to think, what should the last book be? But I'll just do the next one I was gonna reach for anyway. So this is another book printed from a Japanese book printed from blocks. I think the date on this is 1910. And this is another multi-volume set. I think altogether also 15. Well, this is called the Shiki no Hana, and they're flowers of the season. This will be a little awkward to hold, but it is an accordion, although not a continuous piece of paper, but pages that have been pasted, so it'll be kind of hard to give you the full idea. But again, just know that each color represents a different block, obviously. So there's many volumes of this. They're arranged by season. Okay. I'll stop here. And does anybody have any questions immediately, or should we just stick to a follow-up list?
Thank you, Alina. It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to I don't know where the time went. So if I do a similar program like this, although it's not vault materials, but sometimes some reference materials are part of it, called the Art Librarian is in every 2 weeks. The next one will be May 13th. That's next Thursday. And I do them in the morning at 10 a.m. So if anybody wants to join them, just go to freelibrary.org/art. You'll see links there. So it's just a lot of this, me holding out books to a camera.
Really quick, Alina, we had one question that popped in, and what was the name of the flower book you just had up?
Yeah, so Shiki no Hana. So and I'll make a list just of the ones we saw today. Is that good?
That
Okay.
sounds perfect.
Okay.
And I'll email that to everybody that was here, and then we'll have the recording available too if you want to revisit anything, but hopefully you'll be able to revisit them in person at the library sometime soon. Thanks everyone for coming. If you have any follow-up questions, I shared Alina's email in the chat. It's up at the top, and I'll email that as well with the list. And thank you all again for joining us. It's great to see everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.